So I think we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Kate Paisani, and not only am I the director of CARLA, but I am also the co-editor of Second Language Research and Practice, which is the new open access journal of the American Association of Universities and Supervisors and Coordinators. And I'm here with my colleague, Johanna Watzinger-Tharp from the University of Utah, who is the other co-editor of this new journal. And I'm going to pass things over to her to get things started about information about the journal.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're really excited to share some information about second language research and practice to you. And we'll go just a little bit over how this journal came about. The journal, for the past 30 years, we've had an annual volume, a book series on issues in language program direction. It was established in 1990. At the same time as the American Association of University Supervisors and Coordinators, AAUSC. So 30 years ago, this organization was founded, and at the same time, also the annual volume. And it was intended to advance specific goals of AAUSC to promote research in L2 teaching and learning, teacher development, and program direction, and really a broad goal to improve post-secondary L2 instruction and to kind of highlight the scholarship and the work that language program directors do. And until then, there hadn't been a venue for scholarship in that domain to be highlighted and to be disseminated. So at the occasion of the 30th anniversary of both the organization and the annual volume, we actually were fortunate to all publish volume 1, issue 1 of Second Language Research and Practice. And the next slide will show some of the premise of the journal, which on the one hand continues the tradition of the annual volume, but it also broadens the goals a little bit. So it's the journal, Second Language Research and Practice, is grounded in the discipline of applied linguistics, much like the annual volume was as well. We seek to disseminate scholarship on topics that are relevant to post-secondary language education and language program direction, but we're looking really for contributors and for readers from diverse professional backgrounds that includes tenure and non-tenure track faculty as well as graduate students. And the researchers and practitioners that we hope will both contribute to the volume and of course also be part of the readership, we're looking for a representation of a wide educational spectrum and a wide range of languages. And we should mention that we have, and on the bottom right, you see the different sponsors of this journal. So basically, these are national language resource centers or centers that promote language study and scholarship. And the journal is housed at the National Foreign Language Resource Center in Hawaii, but it's also sponsored by CIRCLE, CARLA, CURL, the L2 track at the University of Utah, and Open Language Resource Center at Kansas University. So you see our sponsors represented on this page. And I'll turn it now over to Kate to talk about the volume 1, issue 1, and also the kinds of publications we're looking for the journal.
As Johanna mentioned, 2020 marks the 30th anniversary of publications by the American Association of University Supervisors and Coordinators, or AAUSC. And so when we were negotiating the transition from an annual print volume to an annual journal, we thought it would be fitting to celebrate that 30th anniversary by putting together a special issue to mark both 30 years of publications and the launch of the new journal with chapters with papers. We've been having a hard time shifting from volume to journal, with articles from past thematic editors of the AAUSC print publication. And so what you see on the slide here is the table of contents from our first issue. And in the left-hand column are 6 articles from past thematic editors on some of the themes that, that were discussed across issues over the 30-year history of the publication. And you can see that these represent a range of topics from sociolinguistics to learner differences, to ecological approaches to pedagogy, to teacher professional development, and hybrid and online learning. So there's really a range of papers there. And each of the papers sort of takes stock of what kind of research has been carried out since the publication of the thematic volume in that area, and then sets the research agenda moving forward in that particular area of research related to post-secondary language education. So we felt that this was a really nice way to punctuate the transition that we were making and also think about moving forward and thinking toward the future of research in post-secondary language education. The other thing that we did with the help of Carl Blythe, who is the current president of AAUSC, is that we invited people with various roles in post-secondary language programs and universities to write short essays on language teaching and language program direction during the COVID-19 crisis. And this is sort of a moment in time that we captured here with the 9 reports that you see on the right-hand column. These were all written in June, right after folks had finished up that weird semester that we had where we made the pivot, to use an overused word, from face-to-face to remote instruction. And the perspectives that are represented in these reports range from a provost, which is the first article you see here, all the way to a graduate student participating in a language program. And in between, we have pieces by deans, by chairs, by language program directors. And so there are multiple perspectives on dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. For future issues, things will be a little bit different. These were all invited papers, but now we're soliciting papers that will undergo double-blind peer review on any topic that folks want to publish on. And what we want to do, I just want to show you the journal website and explain a little bit the kinds of publications that we're looking for. So let me expand this window so that you can see the whole thing. So this is the landing site for second language research and practice. And again, you can see the table of contents for the current issue that will be replaced by volume 2, issue 1 in 2021. But I want to click on submission guidelines. And so you can see here that the journal is going to be accepting 2 different types of papers: research articles of about 8,500 words and reports of about 5,000 words. And so these 2 rubrics of the journal have very different purposes. For research articles, we're looking for original, empirical, and theoretical scholarship. So we'll be looking for qualitative studies, quantitative, mixed method studies, original frameworks and theories in relation to post-secondary language education. So sort of a traditional research article rubric. In the reports rubric, what we're looking for are position papers and descriptive reports. And this is a place where we really hope that folks will submit papers related to curricular or pedagogical innovation, issues that are coming up in their language programs. We see this as a really nice place for practitioners to be able to describe what they're doing and share that out with a larger community, because we believe that there are not enough venues in academic publishing for practitioners to be able to share this kind of work. And we wanted this journal to be a place for that. So with that, now that you know what kinds of articles and reports we're looking for, I'm going to turn things back over to Johanna, who's going to talk a little bit about the submission process. And Hanna, do you want me to go back to the PowerPoint for this?
Yeah, go back to the PowerPoint, and then there are links to the mission pages.
Okay.
So just briefly, something about the schedule for submission. So to be considered for a particular year's volume, the manuscript must be submitted by mid-January, so January 15th. So for example, our next issue in 2021, we asked that manuscripts be submitted no later than January 15th, 2021. And we're really fortunate to be working with our colleagues at the National Foreign Language Resource Center at Hawaii. They have set up a really great site for us and given us access and helped us establish a really very user-friendly submissions process. So there's a particular online management system that we are using, and maybe click on that in a moment. And then I'm also going to show you just briefly how once you have an article to submit, how you register and then log in to use the online system.
Okay, so you want me to go to OJS to the login page? Okay, all right, I have that pulled up already.
So you see here, of course, Kate as already has a user, but you look below that, you see the register link. So once you get to that link, then you just put in your profile username, the usual, and then you will be assigned a role as author, and that will then give you access to submitting your article, your research article or report.
And can I just interrupt you for a sec, Hannah? I also want to mention that we are looking for reviewers to put in our reviewer database. And you can register yourself as a reviewer for the journal as well on this page. And you see at the bottom, yes, I would like to be contacted with requests to review submissions. And when you do that, if I'm understanding the system correctly, when you click that button, once you register, you'll be asked to enter your areas of specialization. And that makes it a little bit easier for us to be able to assign reviewers to manuscripts as they come in. So if you're interested, please do sign up to be a reviewer because we are in need of those.
Right. So I really want to invite all of you who are participating today to consider submitting to the 2021 issue. And also please invite colleagues, and as Kate mentioned, in particular practitioners who might not otherwise be able to publish the great work that they're doing in their language programs. We're really interested in, as we said earlier, broadening both the types of contributions we're receiving for the journal and thereby then also the readership.
Yeah, so that ends our official presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share. So we'd like to open things up to questions. I see there's one question in the Q&A. Would language center issues related to changes in COVID pedagogy be an appropriate topic? So this is a question from Jean. Absolutely, Jean. We really want to be able to touch on a range of topics, and one of the things that, one of the reasons why we wanted to switch to a journal format is because we felt that the thematic focus of the issues in language program direction, the print publication that we had, was too constraining. We were having a hard time soliciting enough submissions and making sure that we were staying on the cutting edge of the topics that we were addressing. So this journal format allows us the flexibility to be able to address a lot of different topics. So absolutely, we would love to see a paper on language center issues and COVID-19 pedagogy, for sure.
Yes, and of course, I mean, we're really also fortunate that it is in fact an open access online journal, which we've already seen in the participation online, in the views and so on. I mean, it just expands the readership quite dramatically from a print volume.
Yeah, so the next question is from Jay, and this is, can you talk about the timeline for issue 2? What submissions are due on the 15th, but then when would it be published? So Hannah, do you want to answer that one?
So I have to think about how, so usually then once a article is submitted, it's out for review for a couple of months. And then we go through the typical review process and we try to have all the pieces in place by early to midsummer, June, July. And then again, with the online format, then we have our publication, then ultimately we try to have the publication finished by mid-November. There's another question about dual language teacher preparation be an appropriate topic. Let me think about that for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, our focus really is on post-secondary language education. So it seems to me that DLI would be a little bit out of the scope of the journal. We really do want to be focused on what's happening at the post-secondary level. I recognize that teacher training and teacher development is happening at the post-secondary level in colleges of education, but if that training is to then go teach in elementary or secondary schools to do immersion education, then that probably doesn't fit within the scope of the journal. Would you agree, Hannah?
Yeah, I would, except perhaps, if the nature of the teacher preparation is in a kind of a pedagogy that might have implications also for teacher education more broadly. So let's say the content language integration, for example, as a topic, if it's under a broader sort of theoretical framework like that, then I could see it possibly. But this is, something that we can also discuss with authors before a full submission, before you submit a full submission. Maybe that's something to add also, that Kate and I are perfectly happy to engage with authors who are thinking about submitting. And then we can make a decision once we see an abstract or have a conversation with an author and say, well, this looks appropriate, or maybe there is another venue that's better suited for your work.
Okay, so we have a question from David. Do you have an efficient way to recruit additional authors for specific topics? So far our marketing has been more general. We've been marketing on Linguist List and the SLS listserv that's supported by Michigan State University, and then all of the language resource centers that are co-sponsoring the journal have been sending out announcements to their national audiences. In the case of CARLA, I mean, our mailing list is about 10,000 people. So we've been reaching a pretty broad audience. We've also been advertising on the Flask listserv. But if anybody has suggestions for additional recruitment and marketing strategies, we are certainly open to those. The more the better in terms of submissions.
There are two more questions about, one about empirical work, very language specific, absolutely. Language ideologies of teachers of Japanese as a foreign language, absolutely. Language specific, it does not have, in fact, that's been the tradition of the volume as well. And then an article about creating open access teaching resources for all levels of teaching Spanish, absolutely. So yes, these are all very appropriate topics.
There's also a question from Keith about, I'm thinking of submitting a descriptive report with visual examples from social media. Aside from word count, are there constraints on how many visual examples can be included? So Keith, I would say no. This is kind of the beauty of open access publishing. We don't have the same kinds of page number constraints as traditional print journals. So if you have something that you're thinking of doing, please do submit it, and we can work with you regarding the social media examples. Of course, we would have to pay attention to things like copyright in doing that, but we'd certainly be willing to work with you on that.
There's another question about content. Yes, absolutely. Heritage language learn ideologies. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Teresa, for sure. But again, focusing on the post-secondary level is sort of the key. So I know there's a lot of important work going on related to heritage language learning in K-12 contexts. But as long as your work is focused on post-secondary, then we would love to have your piece. And let's see, there's
requirements to be a reviewer is one question.
Yeah. So really, oh, Chad Langford is here. Aw. So sorry, that's one of my dear friends. So what are the requirements to be a reviewer? We don't really have requirements to be a reviewer. I think what's most important is letting us know what your area of expertise is, but we are welcoming, graduate students through full professors to be reviewers. I would say that if you're a graduate student and you're unsure about whether you're qualified, then you might speak with your advisor to get their input about that. Anything to add to that, Hannah?
No, I think absolutely. It's the expertise and the ability to speak to the particular topic well.
Yeah. And then Mahmoud asks about, are we considering thematic submissions for special volumes? We're certainly open to that. I think we would like to get the journal up and running, sort of at least have a couple of issues under our belt before we do something thematic. Right now, we're still working out some of the kinks and just trying to establish a readership and establish a pool of reviewers and so on. And then we can start thinking about thematic issues. And somebody else had asked about book reviews I saw in there, but that went away from my question feed. We have talked about having a book reviews rubric, but for now, we're just going to stick with the research articles and the descriptive reports and see what kind of momentum we get with the journal. It's a little bit too soon for us to be adding additional rubrics since we're just starting out.
Cost to author? No, there is no cost to authors.
That's right. Yeah, because this is an open access publication, there are no costs to the authors. There's all the articles have a Creative Commons license. So they can be redistributed, although they can be distributed with, I don't know the language, with attribution and without modification.
Yeah. And then a question about the reports rubric. Yes, of course, we're interested in practitioners who are also serving as reviewers. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for asking that question. Yeah.
Yes,
that's
Chad.
Kind of the premise that we want to broaden the scope of the journal, and hence also the scope and the participation by reviewers from various backgrounds. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Chad, you have the background to do it, so we would love for you to be a reviewer. So yeah, they'll say yes, the entire manuscript. So if you don't submit by January 15th, that's fine. You'll just be considered for the next issue. So we're trying to stay on a reasonable production timeline, as Hannah mentioned. And so for us to be able to do the peer review process and then have things ready to go when we actually have an editorial assistant to work with us on copy editing and preparing of page proofs, then we have to have all of the manuscripts ready to go by the summer. So that's why we have that January 5th deadline. But please do consider, just submit your paper. We have open submissions.
Right.
And we would consider you for the 2022 volume instead of the 2021 volume. So Teresa asks, regarding the report submissions, 5,000 is the limit. What is the lower limit? I'm concerned a report of activities that have worked well during COVID might only be 3,000 words. I think that's fine. We hadn't really talked about that. What are your thoughts, Hannah? I
think that I'm 3,000 words would be just fine.
Okay, yeah. And thank you, Diana, for your nice comment. We are so excited about this new journal. We're just delighted that the issue came out in time for ACTFL. That's when we always had the print volume come out. And this has been a labor of love most of the time for us to get this put together.
Persistent. A labor of persistence too.
Yeah.
We had talked about in the organization for a number of years for turning the volume into a journal. So we're super excited that it actually happened. And again, I want to express the gratitude to the National Foreign Language Resource Center at Hawaii. Without them, we found a wonderful host and a wonderful collaboration with them. And again, also the sponsors, the other centers that are sponsoring, including of course, CARLA. And it is really a collaboration in the profession. And I think that makes it even more exciting.
And we also have an editorial board of about 15 scholars from across the United States who have advised us on this whole process. So we should also thank them as well. They've been instrumental in being able to move forward with this. Okay, so indexing. Yeah, indexing. Do you want to take that one? I think you have more clarity on this than I do.
Yeah, it's going to be indexed and including the archived articles. Maybe that's something we should mention briefly. So the articles, the chapters and articles that were published in the previous version of this publication in the annual volume, we're in fact finishing the extracting all the files to archive them. And one of the reasons we wanted to shift from the annual volume to the journal is precisely the indexing. The goal was to have the individual chapters, previously published chapters, indexed as their own freestanding publications. And of course, that will also happen with, that will particularly happen with the journal. Yes, it will be, the indexing is one of the main reasons we made the shift to an open, to an actual journal.
Yeah, and just I forgot to mention when I was talking about the different rubrics of the journal and the anniversary issue, we have obtained the copyright for all of the back issues of Issues in Language and Program Direction from Cengage, who was our former publisher. And we are in the process of preparing all of the individual chapters from those 30 volumes to archive them on the Second Language Research and Practice website. And they will be available as open resources with a Creative Commons copyright. Yeah, we're really excited about that. For the longest time, those paper issues were not indexed, and so we weren't getting a lot of traction on our research. And so we're really pleased to be able to make those available to a much broader audience through the portal of our journal website. Bio has asked about documentation style. I typed an answer, but we are APA style, APA 7. And all of that is explained on the submission guidelines on the journal website. And Bio, I see you have your hand up again. Is this still the same question, or did you have another question? If you have another question, go ahead and put it in the Q&A, and we'll make sure that we address it. And then Julio asks, can I use it to get references to improve English teaching with students at universities? So if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're asking if there will be papers about English language teaching that you could use to learn from. I hope I'm interpreting that correctly. So again, we're looking for papers from a range of languages. ESL is not our #1 priority. There are lots of venues for publishing in ESL and EFL, but we certainly are not turning away papers that focus on ESL and EFL as long as they're focused on post-secondary programs. So Bio, you need to go to the reviewer website that we showed you earlier. I'll put the link in again, where you can register to become a reviewer. So there's the URL for that. You can also link to that right from the journal website, which is, I'll put that in the chat as well. If you click on submit a manuscript, it will take you right to that open submissions page where you can register as both an author and a reviewer. So right now, so Bio also asks, are we looking for more members of the editorial board? Right now, the board is full, but board members are on for a 3-year cycle. Some people cycle off and we bring new people in, and there's a process that we follow for nominating and vetting members of the editorial board, but it's by invitation. Okay, well, we are so grateful for your time today. We know that people get zoomed out and have to make choices about where they're going to be spending their time on Zoom. So we appreciate that you chose to attend this webinar. And we have recorded the webinar and we will archive it on the CARLA website, and we'll also link to it from the journal website. So there'll be a couple of places where you can access it if you want to go back. I know somebody was asking about the slide deck, so you'll be able to see the slides in the archive of the webinar. So thank you all very much for coming, and we look forward to having you serve as reviewers, and we look forward to reading your submissions to Second Language Research and Practice. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.